All right, Matty, back again. Another week of the Ask Matty show. We have a lot of great topics today here, Matty. How are you feeling?
Feeling like David Goggins. I had a
Oh,
nice little sweaty fever last night and woke up feeling rejuvenated and godly today. So feeling a lot better, excited to be talking about crypto. And as always, here at the Ask Matty Show, one of my favorite shows of the week.
did you go for a run at 3 a.m. this morning too?
Well, I feel like breaking the fever at 3 a.m. was just as good as going for a run at 3 a.m. But maybe next time I'll just push the extra mile.
All right, team. We got a lot of great crypto topics today. A lot to do with Casper. Okay, if you watch the After Hour show, we discussed it. We're going to discuss more of your questions relating to Casper. But before we get into the content here, become a Crypto Charge member. We're done asking you. Just become a member. All of our community is in the Discord. All of our content, all the tools are on our website. Click the pin link, the top link in our bio. And Matty, we got a code for that?
Code YouTube get you 50% off any membership. It's either $49 a month or $4.99 for the year. You do save almost $10 a month. We go with that annual plan, and each plan comes with a 30-day free trial, so no risk involved.
Do that, team, and then pop into the Discord so we can all say hi. But if you're just going to stick around here, please just subscribe. We're growing fast. I told Matty we are hitting 10K in May of this year, and I can't do that without you guys. So make sure you're subscribing. But Matty, it is time to get into the content of today. Are you ready?
Let's do this.
Pumpus88 says, have you sold off some of your Casper following the news of the IPwe bankruptcy?
All of it, every last token, absolutely gone. 2 years of accumulation just down the drain because this company decided to not mint on Casper. No, guys, got to take a breath here. I need you guys to take one big cleansing breath with me here. When you guys see news like this, yes, we should research, we should see what's going on, we should establish some facts, we should evaluate what kind of impact this is going to have on the longevity of this chain. But if you are investing in tech and it all revolves around a single entity, continuously using that forever, you're not really investing in the tech. You're, to some extent, trying to invest in that company, right? Because you think that that's the driving force behind it. It's just general adoption, right? You can have individuals launching on networks. You can have companies launching on networks. You can have small development teams launching on networks. There's a lot of people that can launch on networks. Casper also has lots of other partners, right? We have IBM, we have Skybridge Capital, we have Nucleus Finance. Those aren't going away. We also had even an update from the Casper team recently, and they said, listen, Chapter 11 is not great, but it is a restructuring type of bankruptcy, right, where you could potentially get some modifications to your finances, to loans you have, an injection of capital in order to keep it going, or potentially sign off rights of the company to another individual or another entity. So there is potentially a path forward for IPwe. But when you look at the balance sheet, doesn't look great, right? We're not going to ignore those facts as to where IPwe is at with their adoption right now. So for me, I haven't sold anything. I have 25% of my Casper on exchange right now in the event that we get a swing trade pop, but that's completely unrelated to this news at all. It's on there to sell at a higher profit, not to sell at a loss. And the rest is just staked up. The rest of it, 75% of it's staked away. I'm not touching it. 20 to 30%, that's going to be my long-term bag, right? That's literally not going to come out for another few years, most likely. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm still very, very bullish on Casper, and this doesn't change the trajectory of the tech that Casper has.
Right. So again, team, Casper is not bankrupt. All right. It's IPwe, the partner of Casper. That's why you've gone on Twitter and you see everyone freaking out about Casper. That's the reason why. So, Matty, is there anything wrong with Casper at this current moment?
No. And one of the best things that Tokenizer and also Kevin Cage pointed out today was that Casper didn't even get to show off its tech because the mint never happened, right? So we can't even evaluate and say, oh, the Casper blockchain is ineffective. It's not good technology. It's not fit for this type of solution. We don't even get to evaluate those things if IPwe gets, sold off to somebody else that doesn't end up using Casper, or if they end up dissolving to pay off creditors, right? So I cannot say right now that the Casper tech doesn't work when we haven't had this big mint from IPwe and the capacity of what they were talking about. Now, I think it's an important use case. I think that use case still comes, whether it's IPwe or not, and it is going to be something that we absolutely have on blockchain. It makes up 90% of the S&P 500 right now, intellectual property essentially, right? So I have no doubt that will move to a DLT solution, and I think Casper is a great contender for that.
So, Matty, last time I checked, Casper was at like 3.8 cents. Are you DCAing Casper at this current moment?
So I'm currently not DCAing Casper right now. I do have some limits down in kind of that 3 cent region, high twos. But most of my DCA focus right now is still Zcash, because right now from a risk to reward standpoint, it's a little bit of a better value, and I've almost gotten my average down to basically the lows with Zcash. I've really aggressively, increased that as we've been down here. So it's not so much that I'm not DCAing right now because I think that Casper's a bad pickup. I have limits lower at prices that would, affect my overall average, right? And help me accumulate more at a price I'm happy with. Whereas Zcash right now is in a better spot, price wise, for me to lower that average more aggressively. I'm not getting that same lowering with Casper like I'd be getting with Zcash right now.
Matty, you're going to be proud of me. I talked about it on the after hour show, but I sold a smidge of API3, and guess where I rolled those dollars into?
Where'd you roll them, baby?
No, I literally want you to guess here. You were just talking about it. What lucrative altcoin is showing very yearly lows that would be the best asset to potentially, take those dollars and roll it into another asset?
Right. Yeah, no, you've got obviously your Zcash going on here.
Yep, exactly. And I was like, that makes the most sense here. That makes the most sense because I needed to, it's just one of those things, Matty. If you want to build a portfolio, you have to move your assets around and move them when they pump, take some profits, move them into another asset. And I'm so excited for the bull run because all I know is when these pops start going, things are going to be moving in my portfolio as they should everyone else's, So I'm very excited for that. And I had to tell you that because Zcash is a steal right now. Is a complete
Absolutely,
steal.
Really good deal still.
227 Matatan says, what is your DCA formula? How much is 100% DCA on of the total DCA pot? Interesting.
So I understand where the confusion is coming from here, and I'm going to clarify this really quickly. So, it's kind of a two-step question here, but I'm going to clarify exactly what you're confused about because I know what I said in the previous episode that's throwing you off right now. So I have a monthly contribution, right? That's a flat dollar amount that goes in every month, and that's based on the way that I've just budgeted my average income, right? It's a flat amount that just gets lopped into Coinbase right off the bat to get seasoned up. Out of that, 25% of that is cash reserves, right? So it's sitting in USDC, it's earning 5 and some change percent right now while it's not doing diddly. You can also set limits on Coinbase Advance in USDC, so you don't have to make that transfer from dollars to USDC. You can just let it season up until those limits hit, and then obviously you get that order filled, so you earn a little bit of interest. Out of that remaining 75%, there's not an auto DCA in equally into all assets that I have. A lot of it will be based on what my average is and where price is in relation to that average, right? So if I have a really good average on something and then prices move, quite a bit in the direction I'm looking for, DCA is probably off on that all the way. And what I do is I reallocate that DCA to the other coins that are lagging behind, right? So out of that, let's say, for example, that, I was DCAing into, API3, XRP, and Casper, just hypothetically, right? And I would split that remaining 75% I discussed that's not my cash balance into a DCA format, right? And I would go boom, boom, boom. These are the things I want to bring down. I want to try to bring these down aggressively, so I'm going to DCA into these things. So those have a set allocation, right? Out of that dollar amount. Let's say it's $1,000 each. So $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, right? But let's say that one of those coins starts dropping really, really hard and I see it break some major support level, but I still want to pick it up because I think that we're heading for a good price, right? But I don't necessarily want to set a limit there because I already have a limit set and I just want to work on focusing that DCA there. What I would most likely be doing is taking from a little bit from that XRP bag and maybe a little bit from that API3 bag and cramming it into the other coin to increase the amount of DC that's going into that, right? Because I'm getting a better average by rotating some of that DCA. So there'll be 100% DCA. If I were to take, a sliver from API3, a sliver from the other, and then I put it in the other coin, right? I would be lowering that average more aggressively. So that's where that 125, 150% comes from. It's taking from some of the other DCA and putting it into that coin that's dropping below. We did that really, really beautifully with API3, and it paid off really, really well by DCAing aggressively under $1. Once we came back above $1, that DCA went back to its standard DCA where it was distributed equally between those coins that I was focused on at the time.
DFT Punk 3245 says, at what point are you taking your cryptos out of their native staking pools this cycle? Date?
No, I'm not interested in a date, but thank you. No, I'm kidding. We do not have to pick dates for pulling out of staking, guys. here's the thing. If you are worried about immediate price action and you want to do some swing trading, take that amount out now and put that on an exchange to trade, or keep it in your cold storage and then move it on to exchange in tranches as you need. Like, it just, that's very personal on how you're approaching this. But as far as the long-term holds, I'm just not taking them out until I hit some of those higher price targets. There's no date for that, right? When Casper's worth, let's say double digits, yeah, some of that long-term's coming out to sell some of that off, right? You get XRP up there in those, $50 to $100 region. Yeah, some of that XRP is coming out to get sold, right? But I don't have that's not a staking situation there. But API3, right? Casper, those are the main two that we talk about here, right? Pulling those out of cold storage. But, you also just have to think about the unbonding period. API3 is long. It's 7 days in, 7 days out. You got to start the unstaking process, and then 7 days later, you get your coins back. And remember, that doesn't include all your rewards. Some of those rewards are not unlocked for a year. Now, you can still pull out your initial, deposit, but any coins that, let's say you've had API3 stake for 6 months, you're not seeing those rewards yet, right? So you can pull them out. You'll still get those rewards later by, either connecting your ledger, your MetaMask at a later date, but those aren't coming out for a long time. So something to consider there. With Casper, it's 14 hours in, 14 hours out, right? So meaning that 14 hours to bond it into the pool, 14 hours to unbond it in the pool. Now, Casper is a lot better because the rewards are paid every 2 hours and are claimable right away, right? So you have a lot more flexibility with Casper. However, it is still 14 hours, right? Let's say we get a 2.5x spike and it happens, very, very quickly, and you've got it all locked up. It's possible in those 14 hours that we give a lot of that back, right? So that's why I leave some of that unstaked, especially, as we've, still seen some of this bullish action in the market. And we're seeing, like, for example, APA3 pop off most recently. That was on a lot of people's radar. I kept showing everybody, here's the imbalance, here's the imbalance, here's the imbalance. Boom, finally take out that imbalance. No rhyme or reason, right? And I do not want to be stuck waiting 7 days to pull it out, right? So I want you guys to just consider those things. It's completely up to you. It's up to your approach, how long or short term you are, but those are some of the things I consider when I'm trading.
Nick says, why do you believe Casper will reach the $3 to $5 region or range?
Yeah, so as you guys know, if you've been following for any amount of time, I'm very Fibonacci based when we come to targets, as well as potential retrace levels, which kind of help us identify trim levels or areas of resistance that we need to consider. And they support a $3 to $5 Casper. When you even look at the previous daily candle closes, which you guys are probably tired of hearing by now, is around $1.35, $1.36, right? Meaning that we have previously in the past had like actual transactions occur, in that region. So
Matty, can you show them that? Can you show them what you're talking about?
Yeah, we absolutely can. Assuming that we, don't get at least a fill up to that previous candle body, maybe you do a 2x from the previous high, is kind of like a little bit closed-minded, Really quickly here, before we take a look at those targets, I want you guys to look at this Casper accumulation structure here, right? We got this final breakdown, strong support that was built since basically June of 2022, strong support, just building the bottom of this range. Now, when you guys look at our API3 chart here, it's a very similar setup, right? Where you kind of just get this bottom of the range that gets built, and then you finally get this breakout, taking out that previous resistance in there, right? Clearing the imbalance. We still have more imbalance to clear. I'm looking to trim a little bit more, a little bit higher here. When we look at the Casper chart, right, there's a lot of junk going on here in relation to some of this initial wicking in here. But you guys can see when we go ahead from our actual candle body closes in here, right? You guys can see that in this particular situation, on this 12-hour chart, that'd be around $15, right? That's kind of crazy. We come down to this daily chart here. We get a much lower daily candle close. So I'm already like not using these moon boy targets everyone else is using. These are things I consider even on the Zcash chart, guys. Technically, if I were to use the all-time high from Zcash, we're talking about a ridiculous price, but I'm not that person who's like, oh, it's got to use the wick, right? So let's just go from the daily candle close. A daily chart is highly respectable. It's an area where people think, hey, if you get multiple daily candle closes over above this area, this is a good flip of support or resistance. So we have a $1.31 up there. If we come down here and we go to the lows, we can see that we scooped the low here at $2.02. We came just a little bit higher there, 2.4. So I say it's a pretty good floor, right? And when you look at some of these retrace levels, right, even if you look at the previous resistance here, we had like a kind of a pullback in June of 21. That's 32 cents, right? Even from here, clearing out that imbalance up here at that 32 cents mark is over an 8x opportunity. When you look at the 618, so let's say that, hey, this is all collapsing on us. Nothing's going to happen here. I don't think Casper is long-term, right? What if we were to just clear out that 618 up there? That's a 22x opportunity, right? And then of course, where do I actually get my targets from? Where do I look to take profit in tranches? Meaning I'm unloading heavily in 3 to 5 parts for end of the cycle, not counting my long-term bag. Where do I do that, guys? Between 1.618 and 4.236. So that's going to be $2, $3 here at the 2.618, 340, and then you have 550 up there at the 4.236. So as always, am I going to wait until this very tippy target to start unloading anything? No, of course not. I may even unload a little bit here at these retraces at 82 and 92 cents because, hey, that's a crazy fat profit. And there's a good chance if we're getting just huge impulses, it might not be a bad idea to look to other opportunities and rotate some of that, right? But you guys can see that extension from the daily candle close to where we have multiple daily candle closes on the lows, $1.31 to $2.12 already is supported there. So I see the opportunity from a technical basis as well as a fundamental basis. But make sure you guys do this on your own, right? It's one thing to watch me do it. It's another thing to go and download your own trading view, pull the fib out, draw it for yourself, experiment with it a bit, try it out on different ranges, see what it looks like, right? And then see the evidence for yourself to make an analysis.
All right, Matty, last question of the day. It's a Moon Boy type question here. We're pinning up assets here. Chris Roberts, 1500. He's always showing up to our shows. The real question is, would you take Casper over XRP this cycle?
So this cycle, if we're saying I'm not holding anything long-term, I think that Casper could outperform XRP this cycle. However, XRP has a much longer adoption story than Casper does and has many, many times over the number of partners that Casper has. And there's a lot of business being done on the Ripple's ODO corridors today. So long term, I still would not want to ignore the XRP opportunity right now because of what are we talking about? A 53-cent XRP is going to look really dirty cheap in even 3 or 4 years from now, right? Let alone let's talk about 7 or 8 years from now. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's one of the granddaddies. It was out there with Bitcoin and Ethereum from day one. People just kicked it to the curb like the ugly stepchild because of the lawsuit that occurred and suppressed price, right? But I do think from just a cyclical standpoint, we could see a bigger reward of Casper. But that also comes down to market cap, guys, right? This is why people like to bet on microcaps because it doesn't take very much money to move it. I like to find the middle ground of that, of like the micro cap and the one that's like a big boy, but I still believe in long term, right? And I think Casper kind of fills that void pretty nicely in there. So Casper could definitely see a bigger, return this cycle, especially if we get a really nice T1 listing, right? And we get a lot of volume pouring in. I think those are one of the things that could really accelerate, the Casper price. But long term, I definitely would not want to miss the XRP opportunity at 50, 40, 60 cents.
I like that, Matty. You've listed out some great altcoin picks that aren't too the safe. I hate that. The safe, Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also aren't like baby Floki billionaire, So guys, you really got to pick and choose who you listen to here. And the approach we've collectively agreed here at Crypto Charge is finding those things in the middle. Dan's a guy at Crypto Charge. He's more Bitcoin, Ethereum, but he also has an array of altcoins. So he's still got that exposure. Matty, he's following in the fine line there. He's getting in with the Caspers of the world, maybe more API 3s of the world, And then, Matty doesn't have, Bitcoin, ETH exposure, but that's because he sees so much potential in these altcoins, and when Matty, when you chart that Casper chart, we're going to look back at that in these lows and we're going to look at that as life-changing opportunities. We're not going to, we're going to see retracements again. And no asset goes all the way up, straight line all the way to the moon. They always retrace. So we're going to see those over the next coming bull runs, but specifically this bull run, right now is the opportunity to be taking advantage of that. I know a lot of people are skeptical because of the whole Casper thing, but that had nothing to do with Casper at the end of the day. Right. It was a relationship that, IPwe was keeping it under wraps. They went silent on Twitter, but Casper, the project, can't control that. And so when we see these lower prices on Casper, for me, it's I'm not, I asked you about DCAing. I'm not DCAing right now just because I need to allocate to Zcash and to not HBAR at this moment, but, other cryptos waiting for that API 3 pullback to allocate to those cryptos. But especially with Zcash DCA has to be turned on right now. These are all-time lows that we're seeing on Zcash. So anyways, I don't know why I just went off a tangent right there, Matty. but anyways, wrap the show up here. Does anybody need to know anything for the rest of the week? What do we got upcoming? Thoughts on the crypto market right now? Maybe ease some stress here, because I hope people aren't getting caught up on the whole Twitter thing. I know we saw some stuff in the Discord, people freaking out. And even I read Kevin's tweet the other day, and everyone took that as holy shit, they took a big reaction to it, oh my gosh, and it was big. IPwe, doing filing for bankruptcy is a big deal for the Casper community. but it's not the end of the project, you know?
Right.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. I think that Kevin is one of those people who's, first of all, very smart and very introspective. And he's somebody who also, when he puts out a lot of this information, looks at people's perception of it and cares a lot about that, right? He cares a lot about how people are looking at his conviction in a project, right? So for people like Kevin and I, right, who are very, we of course want to make money sooner than later, but we also share that long-term vision for DLT, long-term vision for the picks that we do get in, right? It can sound a bit exhaustive, and then when you get one of these announcements like this, and everyone thinks that maybe you're not being as honest as you should be about what projects you're invested in, but I think that we all just need to take a step back and realize that, like you said, these are just companies. There's going to be many new relationships that come and go. I think that it's very, very normal that new companies try new technology. Think about even in your everyday life. How many times have you switched products and you don't necessarily have anything bad to say about the other product you're using? You just prefer this new product a little bit more, right? So even though this happened to be a bankruptcy situation, we're going to have situations where you have a company comes on, big company, maybe they use the product for a couple of years and they move on to another product, right? But that doesn't change the value of the technology there. Sometimes it just doesn't satiate people's needs at a certain point anymore, right? You have like a CRM, a customer relation management system, and it's basic like follow-up boss, right? It's very easy, it's very plug and play for users. But as you scale and your entity has, let's say, 500 people, 600 people, 1,200 people, the follow-up boss is not going to be effective for you anymore. You need to move on to something like Salesforce. But there's nothing wrong with follow-up boss. It's great for a certain size company, whereas something like Salesforce is going to be better for a larger corporation, right? So we're also going to have those growing pains with all networks: Casper, XRP, APA3, Bitcoin, Ethereum. So just keep those things in mind, guys, right? We need to keep being open-minded as investors in an emerging space. This is a guarantee. I guarantee you will be disappointed many, many times in an emerging, volatile tech space, okay? If you guys are willing to accept those things, you're going to be a lot happier, you're going to be a lot more objective, and you're only going to invest what you're comfortable investing. If you guys are in that spot where you're very emotional right now, there's a very good likeliness that you have invested more than you're comfortable with. Never, ever do that. So one tip I guess I would leave you guys with today, and this is one thing that gives me a lot of peace when I go to bed at night, because I can tell when I haven't reviewed my finances as well. And I actually get a little bit anxious because when I go to bed, I'm just trying to calculate numbers in my head and I'm thinking about what I'm spending and thinking about what's coming in, and crypto, all this stuff. Review everything. Review your bank account from the last few months. Review your crypto holdings. Review, what you've paid for everything. Get a good snapshot of your financial life, and it's going to give you a better ability to view things objectively and be less stressed, and then invest what you're comfortable with. Okay. If you guys want help with that stuff, right, we have tools and stuff at CryptoCharge.com. We got our Discord community. I'll take a look at your portfolio, and if you post a quick picture of it, and we can potentially look as a team to make some adjustments there. But I just recommend getting financially healthy, guys, and that means just starting with a review. You don't have to make dramatic changes. Just be aware of what you're doing.
Preach, Matty, preach. All right, team, we're done for today. Well, actually, we're not. We got one more show, Matty. So we'll see you at the next show, team. But if you're not, going to show up with us on CryptoCharge.com, we will see you next week on After Hours and, the Ask Matty show. So leave your questions down below. But until next time, team, we will see you next week. Bye.